Is this your first time being on a podcast?
No.
Oh, where'd you go?
I did Church's podcast for the Broken Crayons, and then I did podcast for my sister-in-law.
What does she do?
She has like some Christian podcast.
Yeah, you're a Christian. Have you always been a Christian?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I went to a private Christian school. I was baptized in the church.
And you've just always gotten down with it? You're like, fuck yeah, Jesus?
Yeah. Obviously, I lost my way for a long time, you know? But I always had that to fall back on, you know? And it's like my last day using, I like had a gun to my head and I was just like, I'm just gonna fucking end it. But like I couldn't because of what I had learned in church, you know? And I was like, I'm gonna go to hell if I do this. And but I finally like prayed for the first time in a really long time. And I asked God to like get me out of this situation because I didn't have insurance to go to treatment. I didn't have family support. I didn't have nothing, you know? And I prayed that God would get me out of it, even if it was an overdose or if I get hit by a bus. Like, I don't really care. It's just like I couldn't end it myself and I didn't know how, you know? And 2 hours later, I was arrested. And I was like, okay, thank you, God.
Jail saves a lot of people. It saved me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I was incarcerated for the amount of time that I was, because like I needed to detox, you know, it was a good like 5 months that I was detoxing, you know, and then I went to a sober living for, well, it was supposed to be for a year, but I got kicked out.
What'd you do?
This kid ratted on me for having a gun in my car. And
this is in California?
Yeah, in Malibu. Yeah. And I was like lying and manipulating. Like I took the drugs out of my system, but nothing else changed from my behavior because they didn't make me do steps. They didn't make me do anything, you know? So I'm like, oh, I can play them. Like get it to where I could do whatever the heck I want to do, you know?
Yeah, you wanted it your way. You wanted to be sober on your terms.
Yep. Yeah, of course. But they kicked me out. And that's when I called Michael. I'm like, hey,
I heard you were sober.
Yeah.
What are you doing? How did you do that? Oh, wait, you're not homeless? Can you get me a home? Yeah. Can you house me?
Yeah. Well, I heard he was doing sober living, so I called him. I'm like, hey, do you have like a female bed there? And he was like, no, I don't do women's sober livings, but come start one here. And I'm like, no, you do not want
responsibility.
You don't want me doing nothing.
And this is Stairway when it was first starting. Nice.
Yeah, and I was like, you don't want me doing nothing around here, you know? Like these are the reasons why I'm getting kicked out. Like you don't want me running.
You were honest with him.
Yeah, and the treatment center was too. Yeah, he was like, yeah, just come run a women's place, and he's like, it's just lack of steps. It's lack of steps why you're acting like this, and I'm like, okay, crazy person, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And I went there, you know, and I would tell the girls, like, hey, like, clean your room. They're like, clean your room. And I'm like, oh, do steps. No, you do steps. Oh. And I quickly learned, like, I had to do this, like, by leading an example, you know? So that's why I started doing steps and doing all that sort of stuff. But it turned out pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're the admissions of the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked my way up. I was managing for a while, and then we opened more houses, and I would train the new female managers and all that sort of stuff. And then I started doing client care coordinating, where I helped all the clients get resumes and jobs and all that sort of stuff. And then admissions.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool. Well, welcome to the podcast, Jessi. Aren't you super excited?
Yeah. Yeah, it's dope.
What do you think about Fuck the Stigma, actually?
I think it's awesome. I think there needs to be awareness around stigmas, you know, because it's like those are the things that why people commit suicide, and you know, it's just it affects people deep, you know,
to the core. Prevents
core.
us from seeking recovery, seeking help, asking for help.
Yeah. So I think what you're doing is really important.
Talking about stigma, so I heard you really don't like a few... Language is a big part in stigma, like the language that we use.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just go around calling people the R word when regarding people with like mental health issues.
Yeah.
I try and be like unoffended, because it's like I can't control what other people say. It's just like, I'm not gonna try and take it personally.
Right.
But changing our language can be an important like factor when it comes to breaking the stigma. What kind of languages and words do you despise?
I hate the word junkie. I feel like it makes us sound like once a junkie, always a junkie. And that's just not the truth. People change, you know? Like, just the word junkie sounds like you're just like trash, you know? And we're not trash. We're children of God, you know? And we just are struggling, you know?
I think a lot of, like, even memes, like, on the community group online, like, we use a lot of offensive memes are a thing.
Yeah. They are.
And we use, like, there's the word junkies in there. And I feel like we kind of call each other it sometimes, like addict to addict.
Yeah.
To almost, like, reclaim the word. Or take the power away from it, almost.
Right.
So, like, does that bug you as well? Or is it just, like, when somebody is just out there calling you a junkie?
I don't think it's when drug addicts call themselves junkies or to each other. It's more of people who don't understand call us junkies, you know? Like, I would call myself a gutter junkie, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but I think it's just different when we've been through it and we can laugh about it and joke about it.
Yeah, and, like, we're in recovery now.
Yeah.
We're nothing like how we were before. The changes that we go through are insane.
Yeah.
Like, literally just today, like, Matthew was telling me, like, dude, the person I met 2 years ago, you're nothing like her today.
Yeah.
Complete change. You're always, like, growing, working, having an open ear and mind. I'm like, you know what? You're right. And when I go back and think about it, it's just we change so much because we're actively trying to. And we have no other choice if we do want to recover but to completely change everything.
Yeah, it's true. You have changed. I was lucky enough to see you from the beginning. It's incredible. And it's like, that's the coolest part about doing admissions. I guess you could call it a job, but it's like a passion, you know? It's like I get to hear people on the first call and like them so broken, just like Matthew. I was his first call, you know, and I like convinced him to like come to treatment and that there's a better life, you know. And for some reason he trusted me and was broken enough to make the decision to come, you know. And it's like, that's the coolest thing. It's when I get to be the first phone call, hearing somebody so broken and hopeless, and then they come to Stairways or whatever, they get treatment and they get cool lives, you know? And it was the same situation with myself. It's like for 20 years, I could not get it together. I tried and tried and tried and tried, and it just wouldn't work. And I even like came to the senses that like, I'm always gonna be a junkie, you know? It's cool to see everybody's lives transform and get jobs and have kids, and, you know, it's so cool.
So through the 20, you said you were trying to get sober for like 20 years. What was that process like? Because I mean, even working in the recovery and the treatment world, you see a lot of people go in and out and relapse.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to understand that a little better. And I've had friends that keep going in and out. I've sponsored people that keep going in and out, and it breaks my heart. Yeah. And I don't know what to do to help. And then I had to learn, like, oh, I can't save the addict. I can only spread the message.
Yeah. And pray.
But like, so I kind of want to almost dive into what it's like to constantly relapse, like from your experience.
Relapse sucks. You know, it's like I tried to get clean for the first time when I was, I think 20. I had gotten a DUI for drugs, and they had made me go to program, like AA meetings, and do this little group and all that sort of stuff. And at the time I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this for a year, because I was on probation for a year and it was cool. And I think that's when I realized like what the beast of addiction, because I was thinking, oh, I just have to stay clean for a year. Like, that's not that bad, you know? I could not. I would leave the group with some like random dude and go to his house and smoke meth, or he would bring me pills to the place, you know. Like, I couldn't do it. I tried, I couldn't, you know.
Like,
but
what were you trying to do? Like, what do you mean you tried?
I was just okay, my sense of trying at the time, I didn't know about program, you know. I didn't know that you could get a sponsor and do steps and do all that sort of stuff. I would like go home and I would just be like, okay, I'm not going to leave the house. I'm going to like maybe learn how to play the guitar. Like Mom, I need therapy. Like just everything other than what has been proven to work, you know, but I didn't know. I didn't know what it was like, you know, and like, you know, there was a couple other, my mom locked me in my room for like 2 weeks straight and was like, I'll come feed you. You can go to the bathroom, but that's it, you know, because when she found out I was on meth like another time and heroin, and we thought like if we just locked me in my room,
like it would
just go away.
Yeah.
You know, and I did. I didn't leave the house for 2 weeks. It sucked. As soon as she gave me my keys back, I was out, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't build any defenses to like steps. Like I didn't know how to
like what's your
continue to stop.
Yeah. So today, what's like your defense against the first drink that you lacked previously?
I have a sponsor I can call, like no matter what. I've built like a family of recovering addicts that are close to me that like I can call at any point. You know, I have steps to rely on. I have God to rely on. Prayer, meditation. Like I have a morning routine that I do, you know, I read the Just for Today and I pray and call my sponsor or, you know, a friend in recovery, just to kind of get my day right. And then I, you know, send out text messages or like little like inspirational things to sometimes my sponsees or whatever, you know? Yeah. And I sponsor a lot of women too. So that keeps me clean.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to get back into a morning routine type deal. Like I really had that. It was so easy. When I first got sober, it was actually easier for me to get up earlier because you're on the schedule and routine.
Right.
And I think like structure is really important for early recovery instead of just like going about things willy-nilly.
Yeah.
But over time, I kind of lost the routine, especially like moving out of sober living and etc.
Yeah.
I was waking up at like noon and then going to sleep at like 1 and just like starting my day so late.
Yeah.
And it would feel like, I'm like, damn, these days are going by quick. And it's like, yeah, because you're waking up in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And for me, it's really important. Like now I'm getting up, like I woke up at 5 to go to the gym. And then I'm like doing this morning routine now. Like I'm trying to get back in the habit of that. And it helps a lot. Like I feel more productive. I feel better about myself. And I'm getting back into it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like what was that moment where you're like, cool, I'm going to actually commit now? Was it when, because you said you were sober when you were at the sober living.
Yes. Well, so prior to that, I went to a treatment center in Malibu called Cliffside. And I was there for 30 days. The doctor put me on Suboxone and told me that I needed to be on long-term Suboxone. I didn't know what it was. Mm-hmm. I trusted my doctor, you know? So I stayed on the Suboxone and I stayed on it for like 3 more years after that until I woke up one morning. I'm like, I don't want to have to be a slave to something else. Like, it's crazy.
It clicked.
Yeah, it finally clicked. Like, what? I might as well just be loaded. It's the same thing to me.
Like, how did you feel throughout the day on Suboxone?
I felt like I was just wandering through, you know, I could keep a job. I could do like normal go to family events. I could do all that sort of stuff. But like, I was just wandering. Like I had no connection with God. There was no joy in my heart. There was no joy for other people.
You think it was like blocking off your feelings?
Definitely blocking a connection with God.
Yeah.
And to me, without a connection with God, you can't have a connection with other people.
What's your overall opinion on Suboxone now?
Do you really want my honest opinion?
Yes.
Oh, it's such trash. I think that Suboxone is good for detox and detox only. Mm-hmm. To keep somebody on it long term, I mean, the same people who started the opiate epidemic are the same people producing a medication that's just as addictive to make money. Like,
and promoting it as helping people get sober.
Just like they promoted OxyContin to be non-addictive. Mm-hmm. Like, no, I'm like super against it. You know, I do. Here's like the line that I think.
Okay.
It's great for detox. And then I also feel like if somebody's in like super later age, has an illness that's like really bad or deadly, I feel like if they got on Suboxone for the rest of their life rather than using drugs, I think that that's okay too.
For sure. I've heard stories personally of people have kind of like yourself, like I've been in and out, cannot get sober, go to sober living. Like they try the thing, they try the steps, they get the sponsor, and they still can't get it. Mm-hmm. And then they tried the thing that a lot of people say not to do, some say to do. They're like, fuck it, I've tried everything else, let me try Suboxone. Mm-hmm. And they try it kind of like a long-term thing. And like I've heard of people getting 9 months sober and like they feel the best that they ever have. Like they've never gone 9 months without using heroin or opiate, anything. You know, like there's some stories like that. And what's your opinion on it?
I mean, that's great, but that person, I guarantee, will relapse. Because that was my story. I would get on Suboxone. I thought I was doing good. Everything was great. I was like, you know what? I don't even need Suboxone. I'll detox myself off, which, by the way, 21 days without sleeping, like ripping my hair out because the detox was so awful. Really? Like that was like awful. Stayed on Suboxone. I would go through the detox, and then I didn't do anything. Like I tried to do steps in between there with a sponsor, but I was so disconnected from God while I was on that medication that I didn't get anything out of the steps. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I'm off the medications, like I want to go get loaded. And it was the same with methadone. I was on methadone for 5 years. What's
the difference between Suboxone and methadone?
They're just a different
brand.
Yes, I don't know exactly the chemical components or the differences in them, but like methadone was like an old school way of detoxing people, and I'm not really exactly sure the difference, but I was on methadone, which they told me I needed to be on for the rest of my life.
Why do you think doctors are pushing it, and especially saying you need to be on it for the rest of your life?
Because they're getting paid.
Really?
They're getting money. Yeah. That's
for prescriptions?
Why. Yeah, they're getting money for all of it. Yeah. It's a whole racket is what it is. But yeah, I went to the methadone clinic. I would get like up to such a high dose. I was on 220 milligrams, which is like unheard of. And it was a split dose. So I'd take some in the morning and some at night. And I detoxed from that in jail. And this was the last time that I was loaded. So I was on that for 5 years.
Methadone?
Methadone for 5 years. The last year of it, I was getting loaded on top of it, and then I got arrested. Mm-hmm. And that was almost 7 years ago. The detox from that was the worst thing. If I wasn't locked up, there would have been no way I would have been able to get off that medication ever. But yeah, it was at least, so I was in there for like 5 months. I was so sick. I had 16 grand mal seizures. I died for 4 minutes. It was like a whole thing. It was so bad, but I think I needed it to be that bad for me to be able to be like, I don't ever want to touch it again, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's when I got sentenced to go to a year program.
Oh, it was a sentence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the sentence.
We're sentencing you to get help.
Yeah, because I couldn't do it myself, you know?
I think, actually another thing, this is kind of sidetrack. So, like the Gypsy Rose thing of like abuse, but her mom was like mentally ill. Mm-hmm. So in turn, she was abusing her child. And then she got 10 years in prison, but after 8 years, she could get probation. I think I think it's more up and coming, but I think the court system doesn't really take into account most of the time, like abuse and mental illness when it comes to things. And I can get that. Like, yeah, at the end of the day, consequences for your actions. But I feel like
she should have been just given probation.
You think?
Oh,
I think she should have, like, mandatory therapy.
Yeah, like, mental health, like, go to maybe an inpatient.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, of course. But, like, her mom did a number on her, you know? Mm-hmm. And no wonder why she did what she did.
And, for real. I get it, but we'll never get it at the same time.
Yeah.
And in another case, the Menendez brothers, have you heard of them?
Yeah.
This case actually just recently came to my attention.
Yeah, I remember it from I don't know, the 90s or something.
And they both, I wasn't even alive.
I mean, I don't remember that. It must have been a long time ago.
Never heard of them. So they both got life sentences for killing their mother and father, and they were like, their dad was sexually abusing them, and then their mom was covering it up. And then, you know, they ended up killing them, and they both got life in prison, and they have been separated since the 90s and haven't seen each other since. So it's been like over 2 decades. So it's like, why was there no consideration for maybe what they were going through and why they maybe did what they did? That's just a thought. I'm kind of just opening the conversation because I get it. You killed your parent. Like, that's horrible.
It's horrific.
But look at what the
parents did.
Look at what they went through.
Yeah.
You know?
And whatever the dad was doing to them is just disgusting. My opinion, should have been killed. And the fact that they had no protection, like that their mom did not stand up for her children. Like, that is so sad. I would have killed her too. What an ultimate betrayal that is. That the parents did that to their children.
Like the people that are supposed to be protecting you. But, and I understand that this was decades ago and in the 90s, and like only now mental health is more up and coming, and like there's more conversation about it. But it's like, shouldn't they get maybe, I don't know, like the logistics of their case, or if they've tried before to get a case like appealed or like reviewed.
Yeah.
But
I think they've served their time.
Right?
Yeah. It's so sad.
Like, they've technically, in a way, depending on how you look at it, have been in prison their whole lives.
Correct. Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's horrible. And I just feel like our court system should probably take into account mental health and abuse and kind of provide those resources for people. Like, they're, in my opinion, they're victims as well.
Yeah. Pedophiles, like, that's a whole nother topic right there,
for
too.
sure. But that came to mind when you were talking about being sentenced to treatment.
Yeah.
And I feel like that should be offered to a lot more people. And there
health,
needs to be more advocates for that, for people that are suffering.
There just isn't enough. Like, there's been so many issues where I like take phone calls for people who are like severe mental health, or their parents are calling me like, my daughter's on the street talking to herself and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, if they don't have insurance, like, what happens? Like, there's no long-term care for mental health. And it's really, really sad. So that's why we have so much homelessness, and there's not enough care. Yeah.
And what's your take on like homelessness? You've been in that situation?
Yeah. I lived in a bush.
Actually, I remember we were walking in Colorado Springs. You're like, this looks like the bushes I used to live in.
Yeah. It was a nice bush. Yeah. But so for me, it was more by choice, I guess, because I lived in, I was like staying with my mom sometimes, but when I wanted to go get loaded, I was in Hollywood. So, and I didn't have a car because I lost my license for 4 years for like a third DUI or something.
You had 3 too?
Yeah.
I love hearing that other people get DUIs, so I don't feel so alone.
Mine are all from drugs too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I lived in a bush, and it was kind of by choice. Like, I wouldn't have chosen to go like live in a bush or my mom's if I wasn't on drugs, you know, but I wanted to keep getting loaded, and I didn't know how to stop. So my only option was at one point to go live in a bush near my dealer's house.
You're like, this is going to be the most efficient for me.
It worked.
Yeah. And some people it is by choice being homeless, and other people that's circumstances happen where they're put in that position. Yeah. And most of the time, maybe I don't know the exact numbers, but I would almost confidently say majority of the time it's because of a drug addiction.
Or mental health. Yeah.
But sometimes it's not. Like, sometimes it's veterans on the streets. Yeah. Or, normal average Joe that unfortunate things happen and they end up on the street. Yeah.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
I wish there was more resources that we had to help that, you know, but.
And I've heard it's only grown in Los Angeles. I've only been here for 2.5 years, but.
Yeah, it continues to grow.
And then also, it doesn't help that it's fucking like $1 million to pay a month for rent.
Yeah. I make a decent living, you know, and it's like rent is just crazy. Mm-hmm. Like for me and my son, it's just like it's most people can't do it off of like a normal salary.
Yeah, and it's almost like I'm actually like struggling a little bit to save.
Yeah.
It's getting hard.
Yeah.
Dude, I've seen so many videos of like inflation is insane. It's like double, like it's almost going to be impossible for this generation to buy a house and be a homeowner.
It's almost difficult for my generation to do that, you know? Yeah, like the price of milk, like is crazy. Like, because I buy so much milk for my son, and like every day it's like a different price, and it's not getting lower. It just keeps getting higher. And it's like every time I go to the gas station, I'm like, $7? Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm paying $4.30 for gas on top of it. And that I'm just complaining about the economy right now.
Yeah. It's awful.
But it's just really not helping this homelessness situation, especially in LA. Like, I get we do live in LA, but still.
Yeah. Like, where's our tax money going? Pockets of politicians.
I'm so upset about the taxes this year. I owe money. I don't know if I did my fucking tax return wrong, but I owe money.
Last year I owed $15,000.
What the fuck?
And I thought it was like good, but
I'm upset. I was like, yes, tax return. No. What the fuck? This is a part of adulting. I'm like, it actually stresses me out.
Yeah, when you get into higher tax brackets, you don't get money back.
Really, no, we're just gonna, you make more, we're gonna take more, so you're not ever gonna get anywhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yes. You got sober, you got out of homelessness.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck this Suboxone, fuck methadone,
fuck
meth and heroin, and now, and then you were introduced to Stairway, and like, you have 6 years?
Yeah.
You have 6 years now? What's it looking like?
It's pretty dang cool. You know, I have a really awesome sponsor who calls me on my bullshit.
That's what we need.
Yeah. Yes. And then I've got a bunch of sponsees who are all in the work and doing well, which is super cool. You know, I have a son now.
How's that?
It was interesting. So like my whole life, I didn't want kids, you know. It's not that I didn't want them. I just knew that if I had a kid, it would end up in the system. Because I, once a junkie, always a junkie, had that mentality that I was going to stay loaded the rest of my life until I died. And, you know, when you get clean, things are different, you know, and
you don't expect it at all.
I would have never guessed that this is like the direction that my life was going to go, you know, and they always say like, oh, life beyond your wildest dreams. It's like but I actually have that. Yeah. When people would say that, I'm like, shut up. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Stop with that
corny shit.
Yeah, like, shut up, dude. Yeah. But, yeah, it's true. I literally have, like, the coolest job, if you want to call it a job. I get to help addicts all day long. I have, like, the coolest little 3-year-old son who's going to be 4 in April. Yeah, and talk about a stigma. So, when I would tell people, like, yeah, I'm not having kids, they're like, oh, you know, like, I'm, like, inferior to them, you know, and
it's like, you're a woman, you should have a kid.
Yeah. So then when I finally do decide to have a kid, when I get clean, people are like, oh, how old are you? oh, is that your grandkid? You know, having a kid after 40 is like, are you gonna be okay? So yeah, that's another stigma that I had to live with.
Anybody around my age that I ask, like, you want to have kids? I just ask out of curiosity. They're like, no. Most people now are like, no, I don't want kids.
Yeah, because they can't afford them.
They can't afford kids. Yeah. And then I also think about, like, first off, the way I was raised. I was like, obviously, I'd want to do things a little differently. And then I'm like, that's a lot of work and responsibility, and I don't know if I can handle it.
Having a kid?
Yeah, it's like...
Okay, so nobody's ever... Okay, so, like, people are like, oh, when you're ready, you'll have a kid. Like, you're never ready. Yeah. There's never a thing where you're like, oh, I'm ready. You just end up getting pregnant, having a kid, and you're like, okay, I guess I'm going to get ready, like, quick. Yeah, there's...
And I'm like, I don't want to I'm scared of traumatizing the kid.
Yeah, like, passing on our own trauma, you know, if you haven't worked on yourself enough, or generational trauma, it happens. It's like a big thing, you know.
But then I feel like usually when we're addicts in recovery, we're usually the ones to break that one, the generational trauma. And that's the cool part.
Yeah.
Is that we have the almost the
ability.
Power. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like there's somebody in my life, I'm not going to name who, but they are just like mean and angry and like narcissistic, and it's a sad situation, you know. And it's like what's sad is that he'll never get the chance to change. Like us as drug addicts, we get the steps so we can change and like have a different life and go a different direction and not pass on generational trauma, but he's gonna stay the same the rest of his life.
Because you think because he doesn't have a drug issue, he won't get that opportunity?
Yeah.
Yeah, because with drug we're forced. Almost, you know, there's a very big push to change.
Yeah, we have to or we're going to die.
Yeah.
It's like life or death for us, you know? And I used to like curse being an addict. Like, why me? You know, like this sucks. I'm always going to be an addict, whatever. Now I'm grateful for it. Because like the amount of change that I've done in 6 years is incredible, you know? Holy crap, the person I was before, you would not want to be sitting next to me, near me, by me. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no. I think about the change with me even with 2 years. Like I can only imagine 6. Yeah. Like I'm so excited for this year to come. There's going to be so much new shit, change.
Yeah, you have some cool opportunities coming your way.
I know it's scary, but it's fun.
Facing fears, we do that in recovery.
Yes.
That's the only way to grow.
Yeah, but no, you would not want to be in my presence whatsoever. So I'm surprised like people were even around me in general, but it was also people
who
addicts,
were just as miserable. Yeah.
Like you were gonna be missing something. Those 3 babes you have, all gone. And I'll help you look for them. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I don't know where that you last had it over there.
You're like in your pocket.
Yeah. It is really crazy.
Yeah.
You actually have responsibilities.
Yeah.
That kind of goes back to the adulting thing.
Yeah, responsibilities are fun. They used to, like my whole life, I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to grow up because I can't do like daily responsibilities. Like they scared me. I would get panic attacks. Like my mom would be like, go pay this bill. And I'm like, I don't want to. And she would be like, I'll give you the money. Just call to pay this bill. I'm like, it's too much for me.
I couldn't go into grocery stores. I've only recently started liking going into grocery stores.
Oh, I love grocery stores.
I just fucking hate it. I could not. The social anxiety, all the options, actually having to pay for it. No.
I love grocery shopping. It's fun.
I'm going to enjoy it a little more.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about.
Yes.
Was, sounds weird, but your boobs.
Oh, I love my boobs.
They look great.
Thank you.
They look great. Tell me the story surrounding your boobs.
Well, like the reasons why I did them.
Yeah, the reasons why, what was going through your head.
Well, so I was a competitive gymnast my whole life. So like my body was always like super fit and tight, and, you know, going in and out of drug addiction. I would like weigh 80 pounds soaking wet, you know, to gain, you know, 130 pounds. Well, not gain 100, but go up to like I would gain like 50 pounds every time I would get clean. 60, sometimes 70.
That's sober weight.
Yeah, you know, and I would gain it, and then I would go relapse, lose it, gain it, lose it, gain it, lose it, gain it, lose it, you know, and through that they just
as our body does, you know.
They're just like little floppy ears. Dog ears or something, I don't know, whatever, but they got like deflated, you know. And after I had my son too, they got really big and then really small. Yeah. And I just wanted to feel good in my body, like looking in the mirror, you know, because everything else about me, doing steps, like therapy, like just all the stuff, like I've fixed so much stuff on the inside, and I wanted to feel good on the outside, you know. So I got my boobs done. I got a little injections in my lips, you know, my forehead. And I love it. It makes me feel good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason I kind of wanted to even bring this up was because I think there's a big stigma surrounding like getting your boobs done or changing something about your face. People are like, oh no, you're perfect. All bodies matter. And that's true. But I just feel like a lot of people almost find it wrong a little bit to change something about your body. Also, it turning inwards, like why do we feel the need to do those things? Like, is it because we want to be like societally pretty, or we want the validation from others? And I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. Like, for example, like this is obviously an extreme example, like the Kardashians. I love them, honestly. I find them so entertaining.
I literally watch all of them.
I'm hooked on keeping up with the Kardashians.
Yeah, for sure. I literally just finished like the last season, last week.
But the new one on Hulu. Uh-huh. I'm on season 3 right now.
Yeah, there's 3 and 4. I think 4 is the last one.
Yeah, there's 4 right
and
now.
then 10 episodes. Yeah, I just literally finished
I just love it so much.
I know, it's
but
so
they
interesting.
get a lot of shit for the things they've done to their body. And it's like, why, first off, why is that a thing? Like, why is it, as a society, why do we feel like it's bad to do that? But then on the flip side, why do we feel the need to?
I honestly can't answer why society thinks it's a bad thing. Because I don't look at it like that. I look at it as like, if you can do something for yourself that makes you feel better, more power to you, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't really know, like, I don't think it was like, just such insecurities about myself that I had to do this to like live, you know? It was more like, I think it would enhance my body and it made me feel good, so I did it, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't know, but like, yeah, it's like such a talked about thing, like with celebrities, like, oh my gosh, they got their nose done. Oh my gosh, they, you know, it's like, who cares? Yeah. Who cares? Like, nobody cares. Like, just let people do what they want to do, you know? It's just crazy. People just need to stay in their lane and mind their own business.
That's another good point. That is another good point. But yeah, it's always like the hot topic when it comes
to celebrities, like little Kylie Jenner. Like, she had like a bunch of stuff done, you know, and it was pretty noticeable. And like, that was just like the talk of town forever, you know. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think she was denying it for a while. You know, and it makes me wonder, like, why?
Yeah, it's like, fuck it. Yeah, I did get it done.
Fucking done. Yeah, exactly. Who cares?
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
Yeah. And there's also kind of on the same topic, but a little different. A lot of girls struggle with body dysmorphia. I mean, men too, and people don't talk about that with men enough.
Yeah.
And with body dysmorphia, it almost feels like you will never achieve that look you're going for. Mm-hmm. So then it comes to repeatedly getting things done, and then it's like, whoa, you know.
I think I had body dysmorphia as a child because I was a competitive gymnast, like highly competitive, to the point where like I was on a special diet. I had to work out like pretty much like 10 hours a day in the gym, like constantly, you know, like
gymnasts
them
have
telling me that like, oh, you have to lose weight here, this isn't thin enough, or this, you know, blah blah blah. And like, I remember the first time I put on a leotard, I remember thinking, wow, I look fat. I wasn't fat at all. When I look back at pictures, I'm like, oh, I wish I had that body. Like, it was just straight muscle, you know. And it's like, my view on it was like, oh, I'm fat. I wanted to wear shorts over my leotard. Like, I didn't want to like show my arms, and it's crazy.
I'm actually, this brought to mind while we were talking, there's a show on Netflix called Everything Now. It's kind of like a teen show, kids in high school in England.
Yeah.
And it's this girl who comes out of eating disorder treatment, and she's trying to like make up for everything she missed while she was like in treatment for like 7 months.
Right.
And in one of like the scenes, a doctor said like, with body dysmorphia, like your body's always changing. like our weight fluctuates, and especially if you're in recovery for an eating disorder, it's really like changing. And sometimes it takes a while for your mind to catch up with how your body currently looks. And I was like, whoa.
That makes sense.
You know when it like hits you sometimes of like, oh wait, I'm kind of chunky. I should probably hit the gym.
Yeah.
Like it just hits you all of a sudden because it's taking your mind a while to catch up to the way your body looks.
That makes
that's a thing.
So much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because every time I would get clean, it's the same thing. It's like I would gain a bunch of weight, not realizing, and then I would look in the mirror one day and be like, wow. Oh, yeah. And then even when I would lose all the weight, like I would go on a diet or do whatever, and I would lose all the weight, I would still be like, oh, I can lose it here. I think I'm still fat here. And it's like, what? Nah.
And it's really hard to build that like good relationship with your body. I can't even offer any advice for it or anything. I don't even know if I'm qualified to give advice. but for me, I've just come to acceptance, like my body's going to change. I'm young. I can gain weight quick. I can lose weight quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is like especially also getting older for me. You know, like my friend Heidi took a picture of me, or I don't know who exactly it was that took a picture of me the other day and showed me. And I was like, oh no. I have like all these wrinkles down the side of my neck, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I remember thinking like when she showed it to me, I'm like, whatever, that's cool.
Yeah, I know. It's
before I would have like been like, oh my gosh, oh don't post that or don't do this. Yeah, and, now I'm just like, whatever. I'm getting old. Older.
Yeah, like I don't know what to like, because I used to kind of be like that, like please don't post that, and I know people that do the same thing, and it's
and
just
like filters and all that sort of.
I honestly today I can't stand filters.
I don't either. Like, I have a friend that uses them all the time, and I'm always telling her, don't put the filter on there.
It just don't you dare. Think you look better, more natural. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Like on the podcast, I just edit the lighting a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't put a filter over it, and I like the more natural look. But that's a personal preference. I'm just like, dude, this is the way I look.
People are people, and we are how we are, and it's just acceptance.
And we're imperfectly perfect. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes I look at my face, I'm like, yeah, my face is not symmetrical, and I know all the imperfections, but it's like none of us are gonna have this. Well, I'm sure there's some people out in the world that have a perfectly symmetrical face, but I've come to acceptance. It's not me.
Angelina Jolie supposedly has a perfect face.
Really?
Perfectly symmetrical face. Isn't that crazy?
I
read that one time. I don't know if it's true, but I love her. She's great.
But yeah, the best thing I can say for me, my experience is I've just come to acceptance. Especially because especially with Fuck the Stigma, I'm always looking at myself. It's just like, that's the way I look.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good acceptance to have.
Well, thank you so much, Jessi, for coming on the podcast and sharing your story and your experiences and some of the opinions you've had.
Thank you for having me.
This has been amazing. I'm so glad I finally got you on.
Yeah, me too.
All right, thank you.